Shading with markers is best done by lining up your markers. So I have here a cool gray 10%, a 30%, a 50, a 70, a 90, and a 100% gray. I have taken these value gradation bars and traced them in pen with a micron pen onto a piece of mylar or marker paper. I also have a sheet of plastic underneath my paper to make sure that my desk or my table does not get marker spots on it and I don't ruin my desk that way. Because I have 7 different gradations, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I have a paper white, I may want to divide this up and mark that along. So let's divide these into 8. We have 7 different gradations, but we kind of want to know where they're going to transfer. So I'm going to put a mark here in the middle. I'm going to put a mark here in between those. And then I'm going to put marks in between these. So where those marks are going to be my transition from 0 to 1, from 1 to 10, 0 to 10, 10 to 30, 50, 70, 90, 100. Let's see how this goes. If I take my 10% and I start here at this line, I'm going to chip in my marker towards the edge. So this edge of the marker has a flatness to it here, right? If I put that flatness right up against this mark here, I can see that it's lining up, and then I pull it out towards the middle. If I turn my paper over, I can chip my marker in on this side, and I can pull my paper that way as well. When I'm working in this direction, I can't really see what's happening over there, and I have the tendency to work over top of my line. So if I took my 10% and I went all the way to the end of my scale, then I would take my 30%. I'm going to go just past that mark because I know I have more marks than I need. So I'm going to go 30% here. And shade that in both directions. Using my cross contour mentality here. But now I need to go back to 10% to get rid of that jump. So I have a hard line there. I want to iron that out. So I'm going to take my 10%. I'm going to drag a little bit of 30 across that line and up and down. When it dries, we'll see that that line has practically disappeared. Next, I take my 50. I'm going to jump over the next line and go 50% to the end of my box. Then I got to go back to 30 to blend the line between the 30 and the 50. 70. I come over to here. And work all the way to the end of my box. Then I'm going back to 50 to iron out this transition. Back and forth and up and down. Just pulling some of that 70 into the 50. 90. If I go over the edge like that, I'm going to have to go along the edge to sort of smooth it out again, right? 70 is going to smooth that out. If I get an edge there that I need to iron out, I'm going to get the point of my marker and sort of iron that along. Then I need to just take my last one, fill this last block in 100% black. Use my pointed end now to go this direction. Make sure that's nice and tidy. I'm even pulling it along a little further, so I'm going to take my 90 and I'm going to blend in between my 100 and my 90. Then I'm going to take my 70. I'm going to iron out this edge. Then I'm going to go to my 50. Just make sure that's nice and solid. Last of all, my 30. Just put a bit of a mark top and bottom to make that move nice and smoothly. When the arrow goes this way, I can see there's no point going this way and this way, because what happened was I built up a lot of marker juice over here. That's mineral spirits, and it gets kind of soupy over here, and it tends to leak through onto my paper and get my paper all wet. So let's see what happens if we go the opposite direction. I'm going to take this. I'm going to go a couple strokes with my 100%. Then I'm going to go back to my 90. So already I've built in that transition. So let's go 2 strokes with 90. And then let's smooth this over a little with that 90%. 70's next. If you want to take your colorless blender and work in the 0% here, you can do that. It's probably going to pull in a little bit of that 10% over, but it might soften that edge. If you see a line there and you want to blend that out, you can do that with the colorless blender. The warm gray markers have a flat edge just like the others do, but they have a brush on the other side. So you're going to want to practice using that brush so you can get that point in there. It's a little more calligraphic and a little more painterly to have that brush. It can be a little bit uncomfortable for beginners to use that brush. Practice turning your markers, practice getting them into the corners. I'm not as used to using these warm gray markers as I am the cool gray, so it's good for me to do some practice with them. This is the number 7, and I can see a hard jump there, so I'm going to put a 3rd stroke down. Make sure I get that. Enough room to make that transition that I want in there. As you can see, just putting down a single stroke of the material is different than putting that stroke down and putting another stroke on top of it. So I'm even getting a difference just from going twice over top of something with my marker. On to the number 5. Now I'm going back. Well, since I've got the 5, let's try the brush over top of this and see if I get a softer transition. I want to take my 7 since I made that mistake. And I want to put a nice hard line up on top and along the bottom. That'll be nice and clean for me. I'm ready for my 3. and that gives me a transition across this way. Looks like I'm a little ragged up at the top. I'm going to take a number 5, clean this up a little bit along here, lightly and loosely, using my line rules. If I put my eye where my mark is going and I start on the paper and sort of pull my hand up off the page, then that works well for me. Of course, in this one, I'm going to go with my number 1 here. And then my number 3. So that gives me some practice with the markers, going in both directions and working them back and forth and to get a gradated edge.